Hi everyone, it's Anna here from Journeys. I'm here to answer another question in our burnout questions series. So questions that people asked me about my experience of burnout. So the next question is a really interesting one. The question was, how do you keep progressing versus regressing? Any easy steps? Wouldn't we love some easy steps? Oh my goodness, I would love some easy steps. But I love something that Brene Brown says often, and she says, if anyone tells you that there's easy steps to something, there's not. This journey, this wholehearted journey is exactly that. It's a journey. And there's not three easy steps to make it, number one, easy, but number two, to know that we've made it and that we've gotten to a certain point. So when I think about my burnout journey and my continued journey now, I guess in what I call maintenance mode, in regards to keep progressing, for me, when I think about that question, progressing in relation to progressing so that I don't get burnt out again, as opposed to regressing where I might get burnt out again. So a couple things came to mind when I thought about this. The first one is that a lot of the progressing for me has been trial and error. So there have been key things that I've done along the way that have, I think, helped me to keep progressing instead of regressing. But there's been so much trial and error. So for example, one of the things that the key things that I do on my journey to help me progressing are I have regular counselling. Now that can range from a couple sessions a month to one session every 6 to 8 weeks. It really just depends what's going on in my life. So part of my journey has been learning what's going on for myself and when I need to have a counselling session to debrief it with someone different. So I have a lot of people in my life. I do journaling. There's a lot of ways that I already debrief what's happening in my life. But sometimes there are things that I feel like I can't move. I feel like I kind of am a little bit stuck, or I really want a different perspective on something. And so that's when I go, I've got to have a counselling session about that. And so it could just be one out of the blue, or it might trigger some things for me where I go, you know what, actually having a few of these sessions specifically about this topic may actually be really helpful for me to continue progressing instead of regressing. So that's one thing. Another thing is, this happens through counselling, I guess, but is continuing to get to know myself. So again, this is a journey. I am never going to stop getting to know myself. I'm going to continue to learn things about myself. I'm going to continue to learn or remember things from the past that inform how I'm feeling about things now. And so particularly trial and error in relation to what's too much for me to do and what's a good amount. So the example I often give is, for me, so I work mainly in my business doing this kind of stuff and my clients for counselling, but I also have a part-time job as well, a couple days a week. I've discovered that throughout my burnout journey and since then has been working 4 to 4.5 days a week is the perfect amount for me. Working full-time is too much. Working 3 days is not enough to keep my brain and my body and my skills and knowledge and all those things kind of active. But that took time. I kind of say my burnout journey was about 5 years from when I discovered I was burnt out until I went back to work full-time. And I always had a fear of, would I ever be able to work full-time again? I did do it, but it wasn't sustainable for me. But I needed to do it. That's the trial and error part. I needed to go and work full-time in another job for me to learn that that was actually too much and it wasn't sustainable. So when I talk about progressing, I want to find, how can I sustain my level of capacity? And that is different for everyone. A key way to work that out is, as I said, trial and error, trying things, but having your own counselling or mentoring or coaching or something like that where you can reflect on, wow, that was a big month. Why was that big? What was it that was draining for me, what was hard for me in that. So somewhere where you can actually debrief that and then try a different way with support along the way. The other thing that's really helped me has been discovering my red flags. So again, this happens through counselling, through trial and error, but it's about self-awareness, which is developed from things like counselling and journaling, and trying things in a different way to how I've done them other times. Discovering what I call red flags. So what are the things in my life that tell me I'm not doing great? So one for me is, sounds a bit funny, but is spatial awareness. So when I find myself supposed to be walking through a door, but I find myself kind of knocking into it or whacking my hand on something, that's actually a sign for me that I'm doing too much. Maybe I'm rushing. My spatial awareness kind of goes a bit out of whack. Another thing for me is I know that when I'm getting headaches, it's related to stress. Now, obviously that's something I need to monitor because it could be a physical thing as well, but I don't get headaches. And so when I do get headaches, 9 times out of 10, I can identify where it's coming from, and probably 8 times out of 10, it's connected to stress. And so that's, for me, if I'm getting headaches, I know, Anna, you're doing too much. What's going on? What's draining you? And again, that trial and error. What do you need to let go of? And when I know that I'm stressed, often it's because I'm not sleeping properly, as in I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm doing too much during the week, and my weekends are packed full. So the rejuvenation part of me is not actually there. And so that makes sense then that I would be stressed because I'm at an overwhelmed state. So I guess they're key things for me that help me to keep progressing instead of regressing. Amongst all of that, I always go back to my self-care basics. Exercise, making sure I'm exercising several times a week, even if it's just going for a walk around the block or a walk at lunchtime to clear my head. Nutrition, so making sure I'm having a healthy, balanced diet, and sleep. So making sure, for me, I need to get between 8 and 10 hours of sleep a night. I know that sounds like a lot, but it almost feels like I'm a different person. My clarity, my ability to have higher patience is just amazing when I'm getting really good sleep and have a routine at night around that. And then the other part of my self-care basics is self-compassion. So within all of this, making sure that I'm being kind to myself and talking to myself the way that I would talk to a best friend. So I hope that helps a little bit. The other part of this, I guess, is making sure that you're going the journey with other people, whether it's a professional or key people in your life who understand the challenges of burnout and burnout prevention, but also burnout recovery. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments, and I hope that's answered your question. See ya.